afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Today on the program we're going to focus on research in agriculture. From farm fields to fuels to the food we eat, agricultural research helps solve real-world problems and stimulate economic growth. For more than 25 years, the SARE program, which stands for Sustainable Agriculture, Research and Education, has supported more than 5,000 projects involving farmers, educators, students, and local communities. As part of today's program, we're going to meet a University of Vermont graduate student and learn about his SARE-funded research. But first, I want to introduce Vermont's statewide SARE coordinator, Deb Haliba. Deb is based at UVM. UVM is the home base of SARE's Northeast region, which includes 12 states and the District of Columbia. Well, welcome, Deb. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Judy.
Let's start out with the big picture. What is SARE?
So as you said, SARE stands for the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, and it's a national competitive grants program funded by the USDA, by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, to explore innovative ideas to advance sustainable agriculture throughout the country.
Mm-hmm. And so what kinds of grants are available and who applies for them?
Sure. Well, first of all, so SARE is a little bit different than some of the other USDA grants programs out there, in that, first of all, it looks at projects that address an integrated farming system. And so when we're talking about sustainable agriculture, we're really talking about the 3 Ps of agriculture. So we're talking about profitability. So farming systems that are profitable, that have a healthy bottom line. We're also talking about protection of our environmental resources, so farming systems that can protect our air and water quality. And we're also talking about the 3rd P as well, which is people having healthy families, farm families, and community. And secondly, SARE is a little different in that it splits the country into 4 regions. So where Vermont is part of the Northeast region, which is the 12 Northeast states, and the District of Columbia. And the reason that we do that is so that we can address the specific needs that are coming out of from farmers from our area. And then most importantly, SARE is different in that we have a very active involvement of farmers in all levels of our programming, from being grant recipients themselves so they can conduct research on their own farms, to being a host for someone, a researcher, an extension person that's doing a project on farm and wants to get that real field experience, and all the way up to serving as reviewers for our grants. So they're actually reviewing the grants that come in, and we also have a body of farmers and others that actually make the decisions about what gets funded.
No kidding. And so you've had quite a few grants through the years.
Yeah, we've funded more than, well, throughout our region, the Northeast region, more than 5,000 projects have been funded. And here in Vermont, we've funded over 200 projects on Vermont farms or that affect Vermonters. And
so tell me a little bit about the competitive grants program.
Sure. So we offer 5 different grants programs in Northeast SARE, and those include our research and education grants. Those are our larger grants, as well as our professional development grants, and those are really train the trainer types of opportunities. Training, extension, USDA personnel, and other service providers to work with farmers. And then we have our smaller grants, which we call our mini grants, and those are include our farmer grants program, where farmers can conduct research on their farms. We also have our partnership grants, where a researcher or extension or some other service provider works in partnership with a farmer. And then our newest grants program, which is our graduate student grants program.
Can you give me some examples of some of the funded projects?
Sure. So as I said, we funded more than 200 projects in Vermont, and it's on a whole wide range of projects. As an example, most recently we've funded a lot of projects on cover cropping, which is great because all of the benefits that cover crops can provide our farms and our environment, they're really great at stemming soil erosion, so to keep our agricultural soils in the fields and not in our water bodies. But some recent projects have been really looking at cover crops really creatively. For example, we had a farmer up in Jeffersonville that just completed a grant looking at cover crops as a pollinator habitat.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he's looking at, do certain cover crops have better pollen sources for bees and other pollinators, which is great because we need to feed our pollinators and keep them healthy. And then we just started a farmer down in Rutland County just started a project looking at mustard as a cover crop, as a what we call a biofumicant, which is a natural way to suppress soil-borne diseases.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then graduate student, we had a graduate student that just finished up cover crops in hop yards, and she was looking at ways that maybe cover crops could be a habitat for beneficial insects as a pest management strategy. So those are just so those are just some of the examples of what we funded, but really it's a whole array of projects from marketing strategies to farm energy to pest management to soil management and livestock health.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about, we were mentioning the latest graduate student grants. How do they work?
Sure. So our graduate student programs are, basically our newest kid on the block. We've been, Northeast SARE has offered them since 2010, and we've funded about 100 grants across the region. And these are to support graduate students who are interested in pursuing sustainable ag research. They work in partnership with their faculty advisor, and they can apply up to $15,000 to help support their research.
Well, speaking of which, joining us now is University of Vermont graduate student Robert Mugabe, who is studying in UVM's Animal and Veterinary Science Department. He is the recipient of a Northeast SARE grant. Welcome to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Why were you interested in applying for this grant?
First of all, the cost of research is real high, so I wanted to get extra funds to do my research. And again, grant writing is really good because I want to have an academic career, so I wanted to get exposed to grant writing. And my boss, Dr. John Ball, always advises us to write grants and try to get extra money for funding.
Is it hard to write a grant?
Absolutely, it's hard, but it takes practice. And I really thank my advisor, Dr. John Bala, who has been advising me in this grant writing process. And it has been really good so far, because this was my first grant and I got it. So I have 100% success rate so far, which is good.
So tell us about your research project.
So my project is, the major objective of my research is supporting farm-stage cheese producers with improved knowledge on mastitis and food safety. Mastitis is one of the leading cause of production losses in the dairy sector. However much we know now that it can be caused by a lot of pathogens, but bacteria in the genus Staphylococcus are one of the leading causes of mastitis.
Now, mastitis is basically when one of the cow's udders gets infected?
Yeah, so mastitis is the inflammation of the udder of a cow. So when the cow becomes mastitic, the milk-producing tissues are destroyed, and that's when milk production slows down.
And so that's a real problem for dairy farmers.
It's a real problem to dairy farmers.
And so what have you been looking at? What kind of research have you been doing?
So I'm looking to a group of bacteria called coagulase negative staph species, or commonly known as CNSs. This group of species have been given little attention, but they seem to be emerging causes of mastitis. This group contains over 50 different species of bacteria, but not all of them actually cause mastitis. It's only like five species that are really real cause of mastitis. And within those 5 species, one species, staph chromogens, seem to be the most important. The other species are thought to be beneficial.
Oh, really?
To the animals. So we think some of the other beneficial microbes might protect cows from being infected by more pathogenic bacteria. And actually others are thought to be good in cheese making. So our goal is to understand the distribution of these species on these farms, and how can we advise farmers to mitigate transmission of the more pathogenic bacteria, and how can we encourage the beneficial bacteria, with the ultimate goal to determine farming practices that help prevent persistence of the pathogenic bacteria while encouraging the beneficial bacteria on these dairy farms.
So what are some of your primary findings?
So far, the preliminary findings, so far we see different species dominating on different farms. So you find one species being dominant on farm A, but less dominant on farm B. So suggesting probably some farming practices might be driving the differences we are seeing so far.
So how are you going to figure that out? You've taken a lot of samples of different things.
Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of sampling. So our sampling is pretty intensive. We take samples from the humans, we take samples from the animals, of cow milk, and from the environment, trying to tease out is the species we're getting from the milk, is it the same from the environment, to try to pinpoint the potential transmission of bacteria, like from the environment to cows, or from the humans to cows, and vice versa, because some of the species are known to cause disease also in humans and animals at the same time.
So this is a big puzzle you're trying to put together.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And now, Deb, have other Vermont grad students received Northeast SARE fundings?
They sure have. So currently we've had 9 graduate student grant projects funded in Vermont, including Robert's, which seems pretty modest, but this year actually we've gotten 4 grants that have been funded, and again all over the board. So we have a biology student who's looking at disease transmission in bumblebees, which is interesting, and sort of looking at connections between, is there any effect of plants that specific plants that can transmit diseases or help in that transmission of diseases to bumblebees. So we want to keep our pollinators healthy, and so that's what she's looking at. We have a student in Plant and Soil Science Department who's looking at a unique soil amendment called bokashi, and it's sort of a new and interesting soil amendment that she's looking at in vegetable crops. We have one of Robert's colleagues, Laura, who's in the Animal Science Department, who's looking at the rumen biome, so the microbes in the rumen and how feed affects those, so that the thought with the goal of being able to feed their cows efficiently to reduce their feed costs and also reduce methane emissions from those cows. And then we also have an anthropology student who's looking at Latino farm workers and food access and food security with Latino farm workers. So again, like a whole broad range of projects that
That's
are being
incredible.
funded.
Now we should point out this is not just for UVM students.
Right. So even though all the projects have been funded at UVM, they're open to any graduate student at any accredited college or university or veterinarian school. So we really do encourage folks to apply. And they don't have to be just in animal or plant sciences like our anthropology student. Mm-hmm. They just have to have an interest in sustainable agriculture.
And so how can someone learn more about Northeast SARE?
Sure, they can go onto our website. That's the best way. So our website is nesare.org, or you can send us an email at nesare@uvm.edu.
And once again, Robert, the importance of having research money available.
Sure. Because as I said earlier, research is really expensive. So if you get extra money, that's really good to do more work. Yeah, to try to answer a lot of questions. Yeah.
When do you think you're going to know some of the answers that you want to know?
My grant is expiring in June next year, so I should be able to have finished all the work by June next year. So
one of the great things about the Graduate Student Grants Program is, like Robert said, is for many students, it's their first foray into grant writing, which is a great skill if you're going to plan a career in academia or in the nonprofit world. So it's really adds to that, and I'm pretty excited about the grants program, because it really is funding sort of this next generation of researchers and ag service providers who really care about our farmers and food that we eat.
I want to thank you for joining me today. It's a great topic. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.